Okay, now I want to turn our attention to some pretty powerful stuff, external style sheets. All the way up until this point, we've been working with what's referred to as an internal style sheet. And I've said over and over and over again, I'm going to scroll up into my internal style sheet and then I'll go and make a change, right? Now, what you need to know is we have a variety of style sheet types that we can work with. The two primary ones are internal and external. However, there's also inline, which you saw way, way, way back when, right? Way back towards the beginning. So how it works here is an internal style sheet can only control the page that it is a part of. It can only control the formatting of the page that it actually resides within, okay? So it is limited in that regard. An external style sheet can control an unlimited number of HTML pages. So obviously they're much more powerful than internal style sheets. However, internal style sheets still do definitely have their place. Maybe you have a page that's a part of your website that looks a little bit unique, maybe a contact us page or maybe a photo gallery page that looks slightly different from all the other pages inside your website. Okay, so you could certainly pull off that unique look using an internal style sheet if you so chose. So the big question is, how do I take all of the rules, all of the CSS selectors that you and I have been creating, our entire internal style sheet, how do I take all of that and export it to this thing called an external style sheet? Well, as it turns out, it's actually pretty straightforward. Here's what I'm going to do. And this is going to be slightly different depending on which coding application you're using, whether you're using Notepad or Coda like I am, or Dreamweaver or what have you, but I'll try and give you the general idea here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my internal rules. So basically from the open style tag all the way down to the closing style tag, all the way down towards the bottom of my internal style sheet right there. So I'm grabbing all this content. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it. So now what I have is what's referred to as an empty internal style sheet. There is an internal style sheet there, but this is like all the way back at the beginning when we first started. There's nothing declared within this internal style sheet. So now what do I do with all of the rules that I just cut? Well, I'm going to paste them into a new file. And this is where it gets a little bit different for each of us. Here in Coda, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to head up to the File menu and then down to New, and then I'm going to choose CSS right there. In Dreamweaver, you can create a brand new blank CSS file in much the same way. If you're using, for example, Notepad or TextEdit, you can simply go and create a brand new document. Literally just choose File New, okay? Once we create our new document, go ahead and paste just like that. And there's all of our rules. Let me zoom in here just a little bit so you can see them a little bit more clearly. There's all of my rules. And now what I want to do is I want to save this guy as a .css file. If you've ever come across a .css file, that's an external style sheet, okay? So I'm going to head up to the File menu once again and then down to Save As. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this guy inside my Project Files folder. Whatever you decide to name it, it has to end in .css. So normally myself, I just call it styles or style.css, whatever you like. That's just fine. Go ahead and save your file. Okay, so now things get a little bit more complicated because now, rather than working with just one file, index.html, now I'm working with two files, index.html and styles.css, okay? So here's what I want to do now. I'm going to go back to index.html. I'm going to make sure that this file is saved. I want to make sure that everything is saved up. And check this out. I'm going to go back to my browser now and refresh, and I lose all of my formatting. All that's left now is just the raw, unformatted HTML structure. There's no page layout. Check out my navigation menu. It's back to being a bulleted list. There's no typography being used here. There's none of that stuff. Okay, so you might be a little freaked out. Where did all my formatting go? Well, it's all contained inside the external style sheet. And what we need to do is we need to connect the external style sheet to our HTML file. How do you do it? Well, here we go. I'm going to flip back over to index.html. I'm going to click just above my internal style sheet, just below the opening head tag. Maybe I'll hit enter a few times here for you. There we go. And here's where I'm going to go and insert my external style sheet. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go open angle bracket, link, space rel equals open quote style sheet close quote, still with me, space type equals open quote text slash CSS close quote space href equals open quote. So this is HTML, right? And then the name of my style sheet or the path to my style sheet, styles.css. Just like that, close the quote, close the angle bracket. So what we have here is an HTML element called link, and link has 3 attributes, rel, type, and href, and each attribute, of course, has a value, style sheet, text/CSS, and the URL to my external style sheet. Okay, with that in place, let's save our file. Let's go back over to our browser and now refresh, and voila, everything's back to normal. Okay, so a quick recap. What we did is we took all of our internal rules, our internal style sheet, we removed them from index.html, we created a new external .css file, pasted in all the rules, saved that file, and then reconnected index.html to styles.css. I hope you got that to work.